just did something that the greatest scientists, coaches, and champions in the world declared physically impossible for over 140 years. Not theoretically difficult, not nearly impossible, flat out impossible. And he didn't just do it once, he did it as the opening move of a 4-minute program that broke every record in the history of his sport. This is the story of Ilia Malinin. For over a century, the frozen surface of the ice rink has functioned as a stage where human beings challenge the fundamental laws of physics. Figure skating is a discipline of brutal contradictions. It demands the raw, explosive strength of a sprinter, the spatial awareness of an acrobat, and the delicate, expressive soul of a ballet dancer, all executed on a strip of steel no wider than a coin, gliding across a slippery, unforgiving surface. Throughout the decades, we have watched the sport advance gradually. We witnessed the era of single jumps give way to doubles. We marveled as the trailblazers of the late 20th century conquered triple jumps, transforming 3 mid-air revolutions into the new benchmark of excellence. Then arrived the era of the quadruple jump, a terrifying display of athleticism that pushed competitors to the absolute edge of their physical capabilities. For a long time, the skating world settled into a comfortable rhythm, accepting that there were firm ceilings to what the human body could withstand. Experts, biomechanists, and seasoned coaches universally agreed that we were nearing the terminal velocity of human rotation. They examined the data, the hang time required, the sheer impact of the landings, and they drew a boundary in the ice. But history has a tendency of producing extraordinary individuals who do not simply cross the lines established by their predecessors. They wipe them out entirely. This is the story of an athlete who looked at an unsolvable mathematical equation and resolved it in midair. This is the story of Ilia Malinin, the young American who fundamentally demolished the boundaries of his discipline and achieved a record so staggeringly profound, it permanently redefined our understanding of human potential. To truly grasp the magnitude of what Ilia Malinin has accomplished, one must first understand the anatomy of the sport's most fearsome element, the Axel jump. Named after its originator, Axel Paulsen, who invented it in 1882, the Axel stands alone as the only jump in figure skating requiring the athlete to launch facing forward because the skater must ultimately land gliding backward on an outside edge to safely sustain their momentum. Every Axel jump demands an additional half rotation. A single axel is 1.5 revolutions, a double is 2.5. For decades, the triple axel requiring 3.5 revolutions suspended in freezing air was regarded as the ultimate measure of a skater's mastery. It was the gateway into the elite tier. The concept of a quadruple axel, a jump demanding 4.5 full revolutions, was broadly dismissed as a theoretical fantasy. The physics simply did not appear to support it. To complete 4.5 rotations, a skater would need to launch themselves higher than ever before, draw their arms and legs in tighter to accelerate their rotational velocity to a blinding blur, and then somehow open up in time to absorb a landing force equivalent to 7 or 8 times their own body weight on a single ankle. The margin for error was non-existent, a fraction of a second too slow, a millimeter off axis, and the outcome is a catastrophic, bone-crushing crash. Many of the greatest skaters in history, including 2-time Olympic champion Yuzuru Hanyu, dedicated the final chapters of their careers to pursuing this legendary jump, sacrificing their bodies in relentless pursuit of the ultimate airborne dream. Yet the quadruple axel remained an unconquered summit, a ghost of the ice that refused to materialize in competition. Enter Ilia Malinin, born in Fairfax, Virginia, to Tatiana Malanina and Roman Skvortsov, 2 highly decorated Olympic figure skaters who had once represented Uzbekistan. Ilia inherited a deep, ancestral understanding of the ice. His parents were intimately familiar with the brutal realities of the sport, the endless hours of repetition, the freezing early mornings, and the devastating injuries that could derail a career in an instant. But from a remarkably young age, it became clear that Ilia possessed something unusual, an eerie, almost supernatural relationship with gravity. While other skaters fought for elevation and struggled to snap into their rotations, Ilia seemed to simply step upward into the air and spin with a velocity that defied rational explanation. His peers and fans awarded him the nickname the Quad God, a title that initially sounded like the bold arrogance of youth, until he began backing it up with undeniable evidence. By his late teens, he was landing quadruple jumps with a casual ease that bordered on unsettling. But executing standard quads was not enough for a mind wired for the extraordinary. He had fixed his sights on the white whale of figure skating. He was going to conquer the quadruple axel. The stage for his ultimate coronation was set at the 2024 ISU World Figure Skating Championships in Montreal, Canada. The Bell Center was a cauldron of electric tension, packed with thousands of fans and experts who sensed they were standing on the edge of history. Malinin arrived not merely as a competitor, but as the reigning king of technical difficulty, carrying the crushing burden of astronomical expectations on his 19-year-old shoulders. The short program had established a tense atmosphere, but the free skate is the true proving ground of a champion, a grueling 4-minute marathon that strips away everything except raw endurance, mental toughness, and sheer willpower. When Malinin stepped onto the ice for his free skate, set to the brooding, dramatic score of the television series Succession, a heavy silence fell across the arena. Every eye in the building and millions more watching around the world was locked on his blades. They understood the layout. They knew what he was attempting. But theorizing the impossible and executing it under the blinding lights of a world championship are two entirely different realities. The music opened with a tense, driving rhythm. Malinin took his opening strokes, his face a mask of absolute, unyielding focus. He built speed across the ice, moving with a predatory elegance. To launch a quadruple axel, you need velocity, power, and a total absence of hesitation. He approached the corner of the rink, carving a deep arc. He turned forward, his left blade settling onto the outside edge. He bent his knee, loading the spring, and then he detonated upward. In a fraction of a second, he left the earth behind. He snapped into the tightest rotational position ever witnessed in the sport. 1 revolution, 2, 3, 4.5. He became a blur of kinetic energy, spinning faster than the human eye could comfortably follow. And then the miracle, he opened his arms, halting the rotation with pinpoint precision. His right blade reached for the ice, striking the frozen surface with a heavy, resonant thud. The edge gripped perfectly. He rode out the landing with a deep, sweeping curve, his chest held high. He had done it. He had landed the quadruple axel on the sport's grandest stage. The arena erupted into a sound that defied description, a primal roar of absolute disbelief and overwhelming ecstasy. But the music did not stop, and neither did Ilia Malinin. The most astonishing aspect of his performance in Montreal was not simply that he landed the impossible jump, it was that he deployed it as merely the opening statement of a 4-minute manifesto. Landing a quadruple axel depletes a skater's stamina to critically low levels, leaving their legs burning with lactic acid. Most athletes would structure the remainder of their program around recovery, scattering in less demanding elements to catch their breath. Malinin, however, was operating on an entirely different level of existence. Immediately following the historic axel, he maintained his blazing pace and launched into a massive quadruple Lutz, a jump so demanding it routinely earns Olympic medals on its own, and landed it flawlessly. He then launched into a quadruple loop, sticking it with identical perfection. Then came a quadruple salchow. The crowd was in a state of sustained delirium. Jumps considered the ultimate high-risk gambles for the world's finest skaters were being executed in rapid succession by Malinin as though they were routine warm-up drills. As the program moved into its second half, a pivotal stretch where jumps earn a 10% scoring bonus to account for the skater's immense physical exhaustion, Malinin pushed the envelope even further. He approached his combination pass, an element requiring multiple jumps strung together without pause. He launched into a quadruple Lutz, landed on one foot, immediately took off into an Euler, a half-rotation transitional jump, and then launched straight into a triple flip. The technical score display on the judges' screens flickered wildly. That single breathless sequence alone accumulated a staggering number of points, an astronomical sum for just a few seconds of gravity-defying athleticism. But he was not finished. With his chest heaving and his muscles crying out for oxygen, he executed a quadruple toe loop combined with a triple toe loop, and for his final jumping pass, a punishing sequence consisting of a triple axel directly into a triple Lutz. Let the sheer scope of that achievement sink in. 6 perfectly executed quadruple jumps in a single free skate. 6. It was a physical and mental masterpiece, an unyielding demonstration of power, precision, and relentless ambition that left the entire sporting world reaching for words that did not yet exist. When the final note of the music rang out and Malinin held his closing pose, he collapsed onto the ice. It was a visceral release of tension, a surrender to exhaustion, and the overwhelming emotional recognition that he had just rewritten history. The Bell Center was physically trembling from the noise. Seasoned commentators, veterans who had devoted their entire lives to analyzing the sport, were left speechless, many openly weeping on international television. They had just witnessed a performance that was mathematically and biologically not supposed to be possible. The wait for the scores was merely a formality. Everyone in the building, from the judges to the nosebleed seats, understood that history had been permanently altered. When the numbers finally appeared on the massive screens, they resembled typographical errors: a free skate score of 227.79 points, a new world record by a massive margin, and a total competition score of 333.76 points. He had utterly demolished the field, claiming victory by one of the largest margins in the history of the sport. He achieved the highest free skate score ever recorded under the current judging system, an impossible number born from an impossible program. He didn't simply win the gold medal. He dragged figure skating, kicking and screaming, into a new and terrifyingly advanced era, leaving his competitors stranded in a previous chapter. He demonstrated that the physiological limits we impose on human potential are often merely psychological barriers waiting for someone brave enough, unconventional enough, and gifted enough to crash straight through them without glancing back. But the most striking aspect of Ilia Malinin's legacy is that an impossible record is never a resting point for him. It is merely a new starting line. He had conquered the quadruple Axel. He had landed 6 quads. Yet his appetite for progression remained insatiable. He defended his title the following year at the 2025 World Championships in Boston, proving that his Montreal miracle was not a fluke but the new standard of excellence. And just when the world believed he had reached the absolute undeniable ceiling of a 4-minute program, he shattered his own impossible reality yet again. During the 2025-2026 Grand Prix final in Nagoya, Japan, a competition featuring only the most elite athletes on the planet, Malinin stepped onto the ice and did the unthinkable. He didn't just land 6 quads. He landed 7. 7 quadruple jumps in a single program, one of each type, one in every single jumping pass. Under the strict, complex rules of figure skating, 7 is the absolute legal maximum a skater can even attempt in a free skate. He had mathematically maximized the sport itself. He departed with a free skate score of 238.24. Obliterating his own mythological Montreal record by an astonishing 10 points and an overall technical score that resembled a glitch in the scoring system. He carried that dominance into the 2026 Olympic Winter Games in Milano Cortina, helping secure a team event gold medal and further cementing his standing in the pantheon of athletic greatness. The conversation surrounding Malinin transformed entirely. He was no longer simply a skater. He was an aerodynamic anomaly, performing in ice skates, a living, breathing testament to the relentless, stubborn, and brilliant human spirit. When you watch Ilia Malinin skate, you are not merely observing a sporting event. You are witnessing human evolution broadcast live in high definition. He took a jump, deemed a physical impossibility for over 140 years, and made it his signature calling card. He took a sport bound by tradition, rigid technical regulations, and the heavy hand of gravity, and taught it how to fly. As the world watches him continue to compete, looking toward future championships and undiscovered horizons, we are left with one profound, undeniable truth. The word impossible has been permanently removed from the vocabulary of figure skating because as long as Ilia Malinin is lacing up his skates and stepping onto the ice, the only boundary that remains is the sky itself.